And we're live with another one. Good day, good morning, hello, afternoon, evening, wherever you are watching this from, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to the second ever Progressives review, where, of course, as you can tell by the lovely screen here, we're two, gentlemen of esteemed prestige and just love of wrestling, because we're wrestling nerds, are here to review some more Progress Wrestling. So welcome to another Grapple Gurus, where we review pretty much any pay-per-view or PLE that we can get our little hands on. And the Progressive team is here tonight to review Progress's Wrestling Chapter 178, Fix Your Hearts. I'm so excited to talk about this. I am your host, Mikey, and of course, it's only fair. He brought me into the world of GCW, so now I'm bringing him into British wrestling. Well, he's been here for a while now. But my other, and probably my better half when it comes to all of this, Andrew is here this evening. Hi, Andrew. I'm excited to have you back. It's been a hot minute.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, it feels like it hasn't been that long, but I realize it's just been a while since we've covered wrestling. We've met up for non-wrestling activities, but it's been a while since. I think the last thing we did was maybe the last Progress show. So
yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I think the last time wrestling-wise that me and you got to do anything together was My Own Destiny back in February. But hey, look, we're 2 for 2 now. We're back with another one with Fix Your Hearts, and there's so much more to come. Progress just announced all their summer shows, and we're going to try to find a way to keep on top of it too, but I'm excited. Oh my goodness. But we are here to review Fix Your Hearts, which is the most recent chapter of Progress Wrestling. So we're going to get into all the highs, the lows, the drama of it all. And also, we're going to go in depth and talk about how we can never see dog squeaky toys the same ever again. But also, the way that I love that Progress divides these into chapters, we also have developments of feuds and storylines leading into next chapters. But we don't have to watch a weekly show to get there. So I was like, you know what? I can follow this. It's not that bad. Some are good. Some are, we need them a little bit to develop a little bit more. But before we get into the review proper, if you like what you see on your screen or don't, we like to hear from anybody and everybody. But if you want to see what other shenanigans that we get into, you can check out our social medias. Look up BC WrestlePod. We're pretty much anywhere and everywhere. I literally accidentally was looking for pictures for, upcoming pay-per-view reviews. I'm like, oh yeah, look at this picture. Wait a minute, that's our channel. Oops. So Google has somehow managed to put us on Google, so I don't know if I should be afraid or excited. But if you want more stuff, you can check out all those social medias where we do report cards for the weekly shows and the pay-per-views and these out-of-context clips that surely will not come to haunt us down the line as we get bigger and grow. But hey, you know what? We know we would make it as a YouTube and Twitch channel if our past clips come to haunt us and people try to cancel us. That is the sign of doing something right, is when the internet tries to cancel you. Though I don't want to be canceled yet. My little ego couldn't, and my little state of mind would not be able to handle it. But we also have merchandise too. Link in the description below. The summer collection, even though we're in the middle of spring, is about to drop. Because, like fashion designers, they are one season ahead, which I don't understand. But that's what we're going to happen. So summer 2025 merch will be dropping at the end of April. And I'm excited for some new designs and just some chicanery and tomfoolery. Also, I am pushing my agenda, AEW. If you do not give me the Thunder Rosa and Timeless Tony Storm shirt that I want, you bet your bottom dollar that we will capitalize it here and create our own. But I digress. So with that all out of the way, let us jump into it. So before we get into the match-by-match play, Andrew, what were so once you got a chance to watch Fix Your Hearts, Progress Wrestling, this is our second show. Without going too much into it, how did you feel going into Fix Your Hearts based on what we were given from the preview of the card?
Overall, the lineup was pretty exciting. I was very interested to see how some of the matches will play out. At least half of matches, even before we got into the night, were following up on storylines that we had from previous shows. And then I feel like even more of the matches that we got later on that did seem like it from the bat either continued other stories or created new stories that we've now seen are going to build into their next big show, which is their Las Vegas show, which, about a week and a couple of weeks is going to be a crazy week for everybody in wrestling. But I was excited to see it. It had me excited. There were multiple people. I think every match either had at least one person that I was looking forward to seeing, and that might have just been because I wasn't as familiar with what they're facing, or I was really excited to see the match it as a whole. And in regards to the stories and everything, noticed in this card especially, they did a really good job of like filling me in on the history of some of the stuff that happened, especially during the pandemic, that I wasn't watching Progress at the time. So I feel like they've done a really good job. They continue to kind of fill in their history in such a way that it feels natural and it goes with the stories that are happening now and gets me more interested in it, that I'm getting more involved.
I have to agree with you there, of course, because prior to this, during the pandemic and even coming out of it as well, I've kept up with Progress, but more so like vicariously through their social medias and their things like that. So I am familiar with some of the key players. I was familiar with the things that came during the pandemic era and then a little bit after that. But I also love, and might be biased because I've always wanted to cover Progress here, but it makes it so easy to jump in where you don't have to know like all the lore and all the players and all the characters in order for you to get it, like some of the bigger promotions, especially here in the States do. So I appreciate the ease of being able to get into Progress. And plus, who doesn't love British wrestling? Because I'm a fan of British wrestling and their style of it being more sloppy is not the word, but it is more, diamond in the rough approach to wrestling, which I love. They're just hard hitting. And they also catch style of wrestling is something I really love as well. So some of our matches or some of the wrestlers that we're going to talk about specialize in that, but also British wrestling and the electric ballroom brings such a different feel. Also, as somebody who's watching it on their screen, that just makes me feel, damn, I need to go to the UK and I need to find my way into the electric ballroom for one of these shows. I'm telling you, international crowds just do it. I can never look at US fans again. I was like, y'all failed. You suck. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I will say, I feel like, I mean, Progress especially, but I feel like British wrestling is, and not just British wrestling, because, seeing some of the French promotions and things like that too. I feel like European wrestling is a bit more in line with like Japanese wrestling. Like there's a lot of like comedic stuff that will happen, some spectacle stuff, a lot more things that are like silly, but people get invested in it. And then there's also the strong style, which is, much more aggressive, much more hard hitting, much more serious. As we're wrestling in the States, it's kind of that blend of that like Canadian, Mexican, and then kind of that all-American, wrestling kind of style. So there's that mixture there, which was obviously very heavily influenced by the WWE, WWF through the late 70s all the way through the 90s, and like they kind of shaped the wrestling in the US. But it reminds me a lot of that with obviously different, a British approach to that same kind of flavor.
I 100% agree. And it's been a really fun journey now that we get to be more involved with Progress and prepared to hear that a lot. But without further ado, let us get on with the review. So we kick things off with Fix Your Hearts with our first match of the evening, which now we are ready to play. So we have, of course, one of the British sensations, Michael Oku, who is very synonymous with, British wrestling, but also Rev Pro, which is so fun. Taking on newer to Progress Wrestling and Miles Kamen. So this was literally just a match. Be like, we're just going to have this match to have this match. But also, we come to find out later in the show, spoiler alert, that this also is more so to kind of get Michael Oku's reps in because he has a championship match coming up at Progress Vegas against Luke Jacobs. So my thoughts on this match before I, hand it off to Andrew. I thought this was a fun opener. Miles also is getting his reps in, kind of being newer to Progress and kind of looking to make and be a staple here in this current arc of the roster with Progress. So very cool. Also getting to hear, he is being mentored by one of the other Progress wrestlers who we'll talk about a little bit later. But Michael Oku, also fantastic. Love him. Is great. I love seeing him anytime I get a chance in any form of wrestling because he is fantastic in the ring. I've become such a big fan of his since the summer when he went down to CMLL, and which was a lot of fun. Him and Zack Sabre Jr. actually tore it up in a Lucha Libre ring, which was really fun too. So, Andrew, what did you think of our opening match for Fix Your Hearts?
It was a good match. It was entertaining, and I rewatched it again, and it felt the second time I watched it, it felt surprisingly short. And so, I mean, it did what it did. I will say that when I looked back at the card of this match and the non-title women's match that happened a few matches later, were, I don't want to say the low points of the night for me, but they were above average. But everything else just had a little more extra to them, whether it was a little more camp or whatever, a little more pop or a little more meaning or whatever. So that's kind of where this match sat with me.
But I agree with you that other matches on this card definitely either had more camp to it or more intensity to it, which we'll talk about a couple of them down the line. But I think this was a smart way to open up the show from I don't want to say a show perspective because I am not a person at the theater, but if I were booking the show, this would be my opening match. You know, it gets the crowd going. It gets them. You have favorite home country. Well, both of them are home country favorites, but especially Michael Oku, who in the world of British wrestling, everybody loves unanimously for the most part. So I think this was a smart way to open the show, and this was fun. And it gives Michael somewhat momentum going into Vegas in 3 weeks where he goes to face Luke Jacobs. So no offense to Miles, but between him and Luke Jacobs, Michael has some work cut out for him because Luke is not going to make it easy for Michael in that match. But that's why I'm also excited to watch it. Even though we're not going to be doing a live watch along or review for it, I'm still going to be watching it because I want to see how that turns out. Because who knows? Progress likes to throw in the surprises every once in a while. But Andrew, you did mention camp, and some match definitely had some camp. So let's just rip the Band-Aid off. No subtle introduction. Let's talk about the internet's champion, Simon Miller, defending the Proteus Championship in a doghouse rules match against Gene Money. So the way that this match works, and I'm glad they actually put it on the little graphic card too, is that anything is legal as long as it comes from a pet store. And literally the tagline of this match is unleash the dogs of war, which I was just like, I'm not gonna lie. Upon first watch through, I was like, dang, I wish they did more. But then when I watched it again, I was like, you know what? This was just enough of camp for me. Also, Gene Money with his DIY pasties with the duct tape. I was just like, oh gosh. So I actually really like this. The stipulation was stupid, but it's my kind of stupid. And sometimes I want my wrestling to be campy stupidness. And also, I can never be mad at Simon Miller. He's one of my favorite wrestling personalities, but also to see this beautiful bald bastard that it is Simon Miller wrestle on Progress too. He's great. And I'm excited to see him defend his championship at Vegas. But on top of that, not only do we get a fun camp match, we also got some progression because our number one nephew, he's like, nah, I've had enough of this. And not once, but twice. This was the setup for what was to come later in the show when he just full on be like, and just decides to dip from the family. But Andrew, what did you think of our Proteus Championship Doghouse Rules match?
I mean, it is what you would expect from a match like this. I think Simon Miller's a great character. His wrestling character is a great character to have with this title. He does things with this title very differently than other wrestlers might because he has much more of that comedic aspect while still having, some really good, surprisingly good wrestling chops. It was fun. It was silly. Like you said, it progressed the story. He always keeps it interesting, and the people that he wrestles against, they do a great job of being invested. I don't think I've ever really been unentertained by a Proteus championship. There are a few that were more entertaining than others, but it's fun. I enjoy it. I'm always interested to see how those matches are going to go. With it's good because that's how you're going to get people to tune in. And like I've said in the past, I always just get a kick out of seeing Simon Miller get to be in there and wrestle and hold a world title and be a champion and do these kind of things because I know how passionate he is about it too. So, that's just got to be an awesome feeling to be able to do, and I support that as a fan. So yeah, it was great. It was fun. It was silly. It was a nice mixture with everything else that we got throughout the rest of the night.
And as I stated previously too, Simon Miller will be going into Vegas as Proteus champion, but the question will remain if he walks out of Vegas as Proteus champion, because no offense, but the people that have been announced for that scramble match, I'm like, Oh, I'm in. This is going to be fun. But also, I can make a case for some of these folks to be like, you know what? I can see it too. So, I mean, so far, it's obviously Simon Miller walking in as champion, but he has to defend it against Paul Walterhausen, has to defend it against Charles Crowley, and just recently announced too, now he also has to defend this thing against Effie, which is crazy to me. Low key, I'm kind of, I need one interaction at least between Charles Crowley and Effie. I was just like, Lord have mercy, this is about to get buck wild. But this was a fun match. This was camp. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of surprised to see this go second. But then in hindsight, when I look at how the rest of the card goes, I was like, no, it kind of makes sense that we put in the first half towards the beginning. So this was a lot of fun. So from here, we move on to the third match of the first half of the show. Thank you, Progress, for also putting intermission so I can go refill my drink. So it's fantastic. But okay, let's just get this one out of the way. So in a non-title match, we have Nina Samuels, who, I'm going to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan right now of her current Progress Championship run. Does not mean I don't like her, because I got to see Nina in NXT UK. And I liked what I saw there, and I thought she was great. I don't like the character choices and how her championship run has been going so far since taking the title from Rio, towards the tail end of last year. But she is in a non-title match, is having this match against, newer to Progress as well, Millie McKenzie, who I believe commentary also said that she was returning from a slight injury. So now she's kind of getting back into the Progress ring. So she's been out of action for a little bit. I don't want to say this was bad. It was okay. And I think that's because, Andrew, maybe you can help me out with this. I feel like the characterization of this version of Nina is kind of, her in-ring performance is also not where I want it to be. And I know what she's capable of from NXT UK. I kind of want her to be like the internet interviewer heel character she was in NXT UK, because that was more interesting. I just don't like the character choices here. And the match itself was okay. I kind of figured Nina was going to win because she's defending this title against not one, but two people at Las Vegas in a triple threat. Yeah, this was just okay. I shouldn't have been surprised that I was a little underwhelmed, but it still hurt that it ended up being underwhelming for me. Andrew, what did you think of Nina versus Millie?
I mean, I agree. I think they've made choices that they could have made better choices with her reign. Between the way that she won the title was kind of weird. One of her few defenses was she defended against, I forget her name or something.
She defended the title technically against the number one contender who had just won the match. It was like a 2-minute match at My Own Destiny. I was so mad.
It wasn't even that. Like, it was someone who got beat up in a 4-way match, and then she just laid her out and then won. And it was just one of those moments are always wasted moments, especially when it was initiated by, right there. It was just a bad choice. So they've made some bad choices in that regards, and I feel like they're trying to have that stuff play into her heel aspect, where she's trying to maneuver it so she can keep her title, but it just makes it seem less impressive. I'd rather her be a heel and be down, and especially because this match was a non-title match, and the fact that she won, it's kind of like, why is it a non-title? So I understand that Millie McKenzie is not necessarily a contender, but it's kind of my issue with Ring of Honor and proving ground matches. It's like, if your champ's already going to win and you don't ever have them defending the title, then if you're not going to match, why not have them just defend the title and pick up a victory? Because this match felt like it was a good weekly show match, not necessarily a PLE pay-per-view style match, a special card match. That being said, I think another thing that hindered it for me was I was more impressed by Millie in this match than by me. And that's not to say that I thought the match was bad. Rewatching it again, when they get into the action, they both do well. But I came out of this wanting to see Millie wrestle more. And maybe it's because I also want to see, I was really bummed when Rio lost the title. I don't know that Rio's going to win the title back, because there's talk of other companies looking at Rio, and that doesn't surprise me with the fact that she lost that title to begin with. So I just hope that they do something more and more interesting stuff, and really build up Nina Samuels as a heel, because just because you have a heel champion doesn't mean that when you look at Luke Jacobs, something like that, not to say that she has to be a world beater, but she can cheat and she can do underhanded things and everything, but she should also be dangerous in too.
Well, especially when you look at the last 3 or 4 champions, or the last 3 or 4 women to hold this champion, which includes the likes of Rio, Kanji, Jenny, to Giselle Shaw as well during the pandemic era. Those are some pretty legit women to have that legacy into these Progress Women's Championship. And so I'm not saying that Nina can't do it, but I agree with you that I think Nina there has to be more than what she's currently giving us right now in terms of character choices. And just overall, like, Progress needs to book her in a different way. Cause for me right now, it's not working the way that this current presentation of hers is not working for me.
Yeah. It's a little too tropey and not interesting. And you're surrounded by a bunch of interesting characters. So I think they just need to do more with her.
Right. So I'm hoping that Nina will be able to showcase a little bit more, especially at Progress Vegas, because now her match against Rio is now a triple threat, because now Nina has to contend with not only Rio, but also somebody else I think is pretty good that we got to see her, well, of course, in ROH, but in other places too, the former Defy Women's Champion, Vert Vixen. So now it's Nina versus Vert versus Rio, which I think on paper should be a fun match. But I'm hoping this is for Nina to kind of take herself up to the next rung of the character presentation, because I think there's a really cool opportunity. I'm just hoping that she capitalizes on it. Again, I agree with you. She doesn't have to be a Luke Jacobs where she's demolishing everybody in her path, but I want her to be not as tropey, like you said. So I agree with you there. And I also agree, Millie McKenzie, I need to see more of her. I thought she was good. So, okay. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into this next match, because good God almighty. This is why tag team wrestling is actually kind of great internationally, because it's actually, dare I say, good and not watered down. But this is a tag team match between two teams that have been beefing for months now in Progress. And it all culminates here in this no ropes, I quit match. So basically equivalent to an NXT Underground match, but actually good. So we have, of course, Lyco's Gym taking on the team of Nico and Mills. And again, there is a level of creativity when you're able to, without making yourself bleed like you are here in the States, to make inanimate objects look very deadly and more lethal than they actually are by selling it. I will never look at ropes the same way again. I was like, oh my gosh, this man is getting choked out. Somebody give him some air. I thought this was fantastic. I love the creative spots that we got here, but also these are four men who want to kill each other, but they're also in a tag team format. So it's nice to see when tag team matches are actually tag team matches with tag team people. That's all I'm going to put out there. But I love this match. This was one, if I had to pick a top three, this would be somewhere in my top three. Still don't know where it would place on the 1, 2, or 3 scale, but we're far enough in. I fucking love this match. Andrew, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it earlier today and thinking about my top matches, and I definitely think 2 of my top matches were this match and the main event, and I realized that they're both tag team matches, so that might have something to do with my bias towards tag team matches. But also, like you said, like, it's just nice to see tag teams wrestle, not just 2 people throwing together as a team. Both these teams are really good. Having seen this feud kind of build up, because, I really got to see it in their last show, and they did a good job of really just having some really good fun spots, playing with the difference of the ring with no ropes, did some high spots off the ring posts, even though there were no turnbuckles. There was some craziness going on. And I like the fact that there was some good length to this match. It was like 20 minutes almost. And so there was a good amount of action in there, and it really built towards like making you feel that build to the eventual I quit moment. And, it had some spots where it was like, are they going to quit? Are they going to give up? So it was fun. And, I've become more and more a fan of Lyco's Gym. I'm looking forward to some of their upcoming matches too, because I know I'm going to see them throughout Las Vegas as well. So yeah, this was definitely one of the top matches for me. It was really, really fun and really exciting. And they made a really, really good use of a gimmick for this match. And so I always appreciate that when they really, if you're going to have a stipulation for a match, you should really play into what that stipulation, either how it hinders you or the opportunities that it gives you.
100% agreed. And honestly, I'm in the same boat. I know of Lyco's gym, but being able to watch the progress more in depth now is making me become a bigger and bigger fan of both of them. And they are fantastic as a team. But I also have to give credit to Nico and Mills too, because they both are also fantastic as well. So all around, these four gentlemen put on a really good match. This was again in my top 3 of the card. And you know what? If down the line we want to run it back again, I will not be upset about it or complain about it. So we move on from this no ropes, I quit match into another gimmick match. God, this is also a Bruno match. This is a last man standing match, and I think this also is probably one of my favorites. I think only because of maybe not necessarily the in-ring stuff, which was pretty good and also was a lot of fun too. But I'm gonna be honest, Andrew, I'm a big sucker of student versus teacher storylines like this. And so we have the teacher and Eddie Dennis taking on the student in Tate Mayfair's. So this has been a match in the making for the last couple of months, even when I started watching Progress, because technically this all started at unboxing last year, where Tate won the Thunder Bastard match, and he got the key to challenge for the Progress World Championship at any time, anywhere, which he quote unquote cashed it in at My Own Destiny to face Luke Jacobs. Unfortunately, Tate was not able to win, but then some words and fists were thrown between Tate and Eddie out of sheer passion and emotion, which has led to this last man standing match between the two. And damn, these two beat the piss out of each other. This was everything I wanted. This was wrestling. This was, to use the D&D term, literally two brawlers fighting with each other, as well with a more brawler style of wrestling. And of course, the student does surpass the teacher in this one. I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of Tate every time I see him. I think he is so good. But Eddie Dennis is no slouch too. And I forget that Eddie has been wrestling for a very long time too. And again, I was introduced to him in NXT UK, and I liked what I saw there, and I liked what I saw during this match against Tate. So Andrew, I toss it to you. What did you think of our student versus teacher last man standing match?
I liked it. I did feel like it started a little, I don't want to say slow, so I'll say methodical. And I think part of the reason it felt like that to me was once it picked up, it really, really got going. And really, once they started working around the ring, I think we really got to see it kind of turn up to that next level. It's not witnessing firsthand their history, but getting to see them like the precursor to this match. I was going into kind of like, okay, let's see where this goes, because like they could have done some stuff with it that it is very similar stories that we've seen repeated throughout wrestling. So I thought they did a good job, and I felt like they didn't lean as much into a lot of those tropes that you get from this kind of like friends going against each other, or because really it didn't feel like it was one of them turning on the other one. It felt like even when Tate went after Eddie and they had that kind of issue at the last event, it didn't feel like, oh, this is the heel turn and he's turning on his friend or his mentor or his partner or any of that kind of stuff. It felt, like you said, like it was an emotional explosion. But it was one of those ones where it was like, we've got to hash this out, and it's gotten so bad that we can't just like talk about it. Like we've got to fight about it. But at the same time, also because of the relationship, it also was this like Eddie Dennis was approaching it from the like, if you want to get to that next level, you're gonna have to beat me, and if you want to beat me, you're gonna have to like work for it. And Tate Mayfair was going up and approved that he's like basically ready to take over, the reins and be the grown up, kind of a thing. And so I think this was a good transitional match of, Eddie Dennis like kind of stepping away and Tate Mayfair's like walking on his own. And so it was a good fun match. They had some brutal spots in there. It was one of those matches where like everyone feels exhausted afterwards. So yeah, I thought it was, I think really once we hit the tag team I quit match, everything was just moving forward, kind of all at the same level. Everything was at the same quality going forward on the show.
100% agree. And, you brought up the fact of Eddie kind of, in a sense, passing the torch now to Tate and kind of getting out of the way for Tate to kind of walk forward on his own. And again, I get way too involved and I read too deeply in moments in wrestling matches, but I do like the fact that the proverbial passing of the torch came in the form of Tate using the nuts to knock out Eddie to get the win too, which Eddie is known to do so. Especially he did that when he was a heel in NXT UK. So I love subtle touches like that. And, I don't get to see it that often. So when I see it, I'm like, my storyteller brain just pops really hard for those kinds of moments. So I agree with you. I think having this match after the, no ropes, I quit match and still being able to be consistently good on par with what came before it too, as a sign of smart booking and also a testament to the talent in the ring itself. So after this, I was like, I need a break. I need to just pause. I need to go get some water because I'm like, by process of elimination, I'm like, surely that means that main event is going to be something, but we still got a couple more matches to talk about. And so let's just get into this next one too. On paper, I was kind of excited. This was going to be silly. I'm becoming a big fan of Charles Crowley, but Charles Crowley takes on Mothika in this match. I'm gonna be honest, my biggest critique of this match, I'm kind of sad of how short it was. That was the crazy part to me. I was like, I was like, okay, you know what? This is going to be fun. And before I blinked, it was over. I'm like, damn, y'all. I was like, what happened? Yeah, that's my only critique. But even in those 5 minutes, I was like, I had fun. I had fun. And I think that's because character and the whole Gene Money family thing is just ridiculous, but I love it. But also, literally, when your moniker is the cheeky bastard, Charles Crowley, you have me sold. Like, honestly, is ridiculous. I love his whole. So we talked a little bit about how we're not the biggest fan of Nina Samuels' characterization, and even if she was a champion, her character choices are not great. This is the opposite of, to me at least, what good characterization looks like. Charles Crowley knows what he does best. He characterizes very well, but it doesn't come off as inauthentic. And the crowd's behind it too, which is also a big help. But this was fun. I like this. This was a fun match. I just wish it was longer.
I will say I came out of this match being way more a fan of Charles Crowley than I was going into it. And it's not that I didn't like, and that I disliked him or wasn't a fan of him before, but there was just something. And I think that actually is a credit to what happened in this match. Yeah, I mean, the simple fact that within the 5 minutes we get the information about his trouble with the mist and how it was passed off to him and he's not successful with it, he struggled with it. And then the payoff that we got with that in the end was short enough and simple enough, but gave you a big enough resolution that like you were like, yeah, you did it. And it was just like, but it was so short and everything that I think that just is a credit to both the in-ring performance, but also the commentary filling you in, helping, like being the narrators like they should be of the story. And then the way that they blended in the issues with,
Will Cruz,
Gene Money family,
yeah.
And all that. But it didn't take away from the match. And I think it kind of helped. It helped that the match, like, it's not like this was something where you're like, oh, why is the shenanigans getting involved and all this? But it continued also what we had from earlier on in the night. So I think everything just blended really well. And while it was kind of a bummer that it was so short, I think it was a 5-minute match and they used that 5 minutes so well. I would rather have a 5-minute match like this than a 20-minute match where, 5 minutes in, I'm like, well, this match can be over. It feels like it's an hour long.
No, I 100% agree. Also, shout out to Mothika for selling that devastating, basically akin to the tube stuff from Will Cruz too. I was like, oh, she dead. I'm like, oh, she dead. So, oh man, this was fun. I agree with you. I mean, I wish it was a little bit longer, but hearing you talk about it, Andrew, I think I'm coming around. It's like, yeah, I don't mind it that it was 5 minutes, especially because, again, the small story of Charles Crowley prior to this not being able to get the mist right, and then the moment of him getting it right was all worth the while of having this. Loved it. Charles Crowley, we will see you in Vegas in that scramble match for Simon Miller's Proteus Championship. Cannot wait. Also hoping that you enter the super strong 16, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Because right now, don't care what anybody says. This is in my top 3. I am biased as hell because I love me some Card Noir because I'm a weirdo. And also Trent Seven because he is British Daddy. Anyways, I'm just happy to see Tread 7 back on my screen wrestling because I was sad when he left TNA, but I am happy to see him here. And my God, I do appreciate commentary, during this match. This is a clash of generations in a sense for Progress Wrestling's history with two established stars in their own right, but you have Trent Seven, who I would say is probably the pillar of one of the pillars of the previous generation of Progress with all the people who've been in it. And then Cara Noir is at the top of this more current generation of Progress wrestlers that we have as well. And I mean, there's probably some spots I can critique, but I was just like, this was made for me. Now, I'm not saying it was perfect by any means necessary, but there are some matches on a card where, despite my criticisms and maybe some things that don't necessarily go right, or I wish they changed certain things about, this match was personally made for me. This is a love letter to me as a wrestling fan. I'm just kidding. I'm biased as hell. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop talking right now. Andrew, what did you think of Trent 7 versus Cardinal?
I thought it was great. It's one of those matches where you have two very different styles of performers. You have two wrestlers who are very well known and beloved by the fans of this promotion. Like you said, I mean, it's not like, it's legend versus up and comer kind of separation of generations. They were kind of in that, like, two ships passing in the night, kind of two different, timelines of, especially because Trent Seven has often wrestled other places. Like, obviously he was part of NXT UK, he was in TNA, so he's been other places. And Cara Noir, has had his run through Progress and then had injury and has come back. And so it's like they were just kind of always passing each other. But the way that their styles mixed, because it's just super interesting to watch wrestlers wrestle like this, because Cara Noir is such a unique character and performer outside of, just in wrestling in general. And Trent Seven is definitely kind of he's one of the, like you said, pillars of that British strong style. Like, he is, like, when you think of British strong style, like, Trent Seven is a perfect example of that style. And so, like, getting to see them wrestle each other was just super fun, because there was always this character stuff in there. But then when it also just got into the, like, hard-hitting wrestling stuff, they were both, like, delivering it, and it was great. And I think that's something that I just really enjoyed about this match. Like, I think this would probably, with the two tag team matches, this would probably be in my top three. This and the two tag team matches would be my top three matches of them, especially if I was going to be like, if someone's asked me, hey, I want to watch Fix Your Heart, but I don't have time to watch the whole event, what three matches should I watch? It would be those three matches, especially because I think, on top of showing you the style of Progress Wrestling, watching these two wrestle, it's like, this is not only going to show you the style of Progress Wrestling, but it's two icons of Progress Wrestling. And so it was really good, really fun. This could have been a title match. I think it was a great, Sunday main event.
Because Cara Noir's victory over Trent Seven, Cara Noir will be going to Super Strong 16 to fight for the Progress World Champion. And he is either going to be fighting Michael Oku or Luke Jacobs. Whoever walks out of Progress in Las Vegas as the champion will go into Super Strong 16 facing Cara Noir, which has me excited. And just to give a little bit of history, because some people are like, why do you love Cara Noir? I think what made me a big fan is, again, watching the clips of Progress through the social medias and his intense and crazy feud with, Spike Tripp. That was a crazy feud, full of twists and turns and stories, like Cara Noir losing his identity, getting it back. Then the cage match for the championship is wild. Like, I love good stories like that, but I'm excited. And you know what? Whoever walks out of Vegas as champion, I'm excited for either one of those two men, of Michael Oku or Luke Jacobs, to fight Cara Noir as Super Strong 16 in May. So it's going to be fun. But I agree with you, Andrew. I think this was a really strong kind of semi-main event. But let's get into the main event, because, my God, this was my match of the card. And we don't get to see tag team championship matches. Well, tag team matches alone. But tag team championship matches, quote unquote, main event your show. So this is for the Progress tag team titles. And also, I love the little video package we got before the entrances too. this is a 4-year feud, Andrew. This
Yeah.
is a rivalry that's been spanned 4 years, and these two have been exchanging the titles back and forth this whole entire time. But we have our champions of the Smokin' Aces taking on our challengers of Sunshine Machine. And the pop that we got when our homeboy came through the curtain, because we didn't know because of visa issues whether he will be here or not. And the fact that he came through, I was like, you cannot have Sunshine Machine lose this one. You just can't. Spoiler alert, Sunshine Machine do win. They are your new Progress Tag Team titles, but Jiminy H. Christ on a cracker. Like, these four brought it. And just the spots alone that we can talk about, like the Canadian Destroyer-esque onto the stack of chairs was like my moment of the whole entire night in the match. I'm like, oh my God, he is dead. Somebody go check on them. Oh my gosh, this was so good.
I mean, realistically, every Canadian Destroyer that we saw in this match was crazy. But yeah, it was the story that they've been telling, made Sunshine Machine such good face underdogs. The fact that they'd never won a match against Ace wrestling each other. And it was, at no point was I sure who was going to win this match. I had a pretty good idea, but they kept it interesting enough that there were times when they're like, yeah, the underdogs are going to do it. And then you're at times like, oh, they're not going to do it. They're going to fail. And everything all the way up through the win. The misdirections, the miscues, people hitting the bridge, people missing tags, that kind of such a good job of it. And it's really good tag team storytelling. This probably was my match of the night. It was awesome. And the pop at the end, not just the pop at the end of the match, but then the pop at the end for, the retirement that we got. Just everything just was a perfect culmination to this card.
No, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. This was also my match of Fix Your Hearts. I think all 4 men did a fantastic job. And to me, on the one hand, like as a US fan who watches US promotions too, I wish tag team matches were given this time and this depth to be able to kind of tell fun stories and actually, I don't know, if not main event, like you could have them more, but I don't know if it's like an American thing or a Western thing, but it seems that international promotions do better jobs of actually letting tag team matches and feuds like be a prevalent story in whatever we watch too. But I digress with all of that, but damn. But I agree with you too. I mean, I screamed at my television a little bit when Sunshine Machine won, but also afterwards too, 37 matches, 3 tag team title reigns, and Nick Riley bows out of Progress Wrestling. I was like, that is actually a pretty damn impressive career in Progress over the last 4 years. Like, Nick Riley humbly bows out. The Smokin' Aces are no longer together. But you know what? As short as our tenure has been with Progress Wrestling, this match has made me a fan of Nick Riley. But yeah, shout out to Smokin' Aces and Sunshine Machine. I'm going to have to watch this back towards the end of the year, but I may or may not be putting this on my short list as for my favorite matches of the year, honestly. So that, unfortunately, does bring us to the end of Fix Your Hearts. So we're going to give our final thoughts, and then we're going to get into some progress and news before we sign off for the evening, because just because Fix Your Hearts is over, we still got a very jam-packed spring with Progress Wrestling. So I think overall, while I enjoyed parts of my own Destiny, I think Fix Your Hearts definitely did a better job of the overall card as a whole, because even the matches I wasn't too keen on, I still enjoyed. And the high points were definitely high points. There was like I said, my top 3 matches are the, Lyco's Gym versus Nico's Mills match, Car Noir versus Trent, and then of course Sunshine Machine versus Smokin' Aces are probably my top 3 matches of this card. But even everything else was fantastic. And again, because Progress divides their shows up into these chapters, you don't have to be following years of lore to be able to understand or get it, or to be able to invest yourself into it. So I will say, even though this is only the second show of Progress that we're reviewing, Fix Your Hearts has definitely surpassed my own Destiny just a little bit for me. I had a lot more fun with Fix Your Hearts, and I think that's the overall theme. I had a good time. And it reminded me why I like wrestling from time to time. Despite of us being in the business of analyzing and reviewing it, it's just fun to review a show where I couldn't stop smiling from beginning to end. So that's me. I enjoyed the show. Fix Your Hearts is probably my favorite Progress show, but then again, this is only the second one we do. But don't worry, because we got lots more the remainder of this year to talk about. But Andrew, what did you think of Fix Your Hearts? What are the highs, the lows, and everything in between?
I mean, I think, like you said, I agree with you on the top three matches. Like I already said, it was fun. It was a fun card. I enjoyed it. I feel like of the Progress shows that I've watched, it had the least amount of lulls. Part of that for some of the more recent ones that I watched, I think were happening on holidays too. So there's a little more like silliness that happened with the audiences that were there and things like that. But all in all, it was a really fun show. If I was going to grade this as a Progress show, I would probably give it like a low A. If I'm going to grade it as a wrestling show, so in other words, taking into consideration what I would consider from all of the other wrestling that I watch, I would give this like a high B. There was a lot of really good fun action, good quality. I appreciate, and this is something that I really appreciate from GCW and Defy as well. For the most part, Progress, I appreciate the quality of the technical quality that we get with it. Really becoming a fan of their commentary team, and their roster is super good. It makes me more a fan of the product and the performers every time I watch their shows. So I think that is the direction that it should be. And so I think Fix Your Heart definitely continued that. I'm really excited to see, obviously I'm excited to see how they're going to play into into the collective, because there's so much going on that week, and like those three companies are a big part of it. But outside of them being a part of that big week, I'm also just really excited to see the next couple of Progress, and that's because of what we got in this show. And I think that's what wrestling shows need to do. They need to not just be exciting for them. They need
100% agree. And I'm excited because, well, let's just jump straight into our news. So now that we're officially done with Fix Your Hearts, Progress wasted no time to let us know that the rest of the spring, and actually the summer too, is going to be packed with lots of crazy stuff. So we mentioned it throughout this review, but the next show for Progress Wrestling is Progress Las Vegas, as part of quote unquote GCW's The Collective, where pretty much a bunch of promotions are getting together the week of WrestleMania in Vegas to do different things. And as of right now, Progress has, the men's championship of Luke Jacobs versus Michael Oku. We have the women's championship triple threat of Nina Samuels, Vert Vixen, and Rio. We also have the Proteus Championship Scramble match, which includes wrestlers so far of Adam Priest, Charles Crowley, Simon Miller, Paul Walter Hausen, Effie of GCW, our current GCW champion. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But then when we come back to the UK in May with Progress, we jump straight into the super strong 16 tournament. And we have half of the field already filled out for us. So as of crazy, representing Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan, we have Jack Morris. Also from Noah, we have Masa Kitamiya. So I'm excited because I, again, follow Noah through social media clips. So this will be my first time really getting to see Noah wrestlers in action, outside of like their main one of Kaito Kiyomiya, who I actually really love and had a heck of a match against Sheldon Jean at Maple Leaf not too long ago. But besides those two, we also have someone new to me, but I've heard good things about him, the Spanish star himself, Zozaya. No, but I'm excited to see what man like Dries does in this match. We also have one of our personal favorites, repping GCW in this tournament, and Marcus Mathers as well. So Marcus is fantastic. I can't wait to see what he does, how far he goes. And then I lost my absolute mind that we also got announced that Trent Seven is participating in this tournament to kind of redeem himself from last time he was in Super Strong 16, which according to the rumors didn't go very well for him. And then, of course, our newest entrant is, our former one half of Smoking Aces himself. Charlie Sterling is in this tournament as well. That is a pretty big field. That's only 8 of the participants. We still have 8 other participants who are going to be announced probably within the next couple of weeks too. This is a 2-day tournament, Andrew. So how do you feel about the field so far?
I mean, it's going to be crazy. I'm really excited because this will be the first, tournament of this that I've seen. So yeah, I think it's going to be pretty insane. Like all the names that we're getting to see, it seems like it's a good mixture from other promotions, a good mixture of ages across the field. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And knowing that this is, I kind of feel like this is their, this is to progress what Tournament of Survival was to GCW. It's like this is like what they do best, and we're going to get to see that do. And so I'm really excited to see how that's going to play out, because I feel like this is going to be one of those times where these performers get a chance to really shine.
Well, on top of that too, like we talked about when we were talking about Trent and Car Noir's match too, because this is a 2-day event, a 2-day tournament, it's not all just tournament matches, because we're getting Car Noir versus the winner of whoever walks out of Vegas as Progress Champion at Super Strong 16, Super Strong Style 16. So I'm excited about that. But then the rest of the summer is just as crazy too, because we have after Super Strong Style 16, we jump into Far From Ordinary People in June. Then we have Stay Humble in July. And then in August, we have 100 Volts, which is a big show for them, at least from the way they're advertising it, because this will be the 100th Progress show in the Electric Ballroom, which is crazy. I'm like, oh my God, they've had 100 shows in this little ballroom. That is wild. So I'm excited for all of this. And so me and Andrew, and hopefully we can convert some of the other folks on this team here to pop in once in a while. This has been your Progressive Reviews. Unfortunately, we will not be covering a live review for Progress Las Vegas, but fear not, we will be back in May with more Progress juiciness, as me and Andrew will be covering the Super Strong Style 16 tournament. We will be watching it 2 days, then we will be reviewing it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited. But before we sign off for the evening, to kind of give you a glimpse of what remains this week, tomorrow night, you can catch myself, Will, and our newest co-host, JT, as we cover TNA, as we are on the road to Rebellion, and they dropped a lot of matches tonight. So we're going to discuss the episode and what those matches have implications for down the road. And then to top off your week, this Saturday, you can join myself, Adolfo, and hopefully a special guest, as we do a live watch along for MLW's Battle Riot 7, with a main event being the 40-person Battle Riot match. But instead of a number 1 contendership, it is for the MLW World Heavyweight Championship. So will Matt Riddle be able to survive 39 other individuals and still walk out as MLW World Heavyweight Champion? Well, you are going to need to tune in Saturday night to find out with us at the Contra Chronicles team, as we do a live watch along for the show, which is free on YouTube, by the way. So make sure that you watch it along with us, because it's free. It's going to be fun. But from myself and Andrew here at the Progressive Review team, and as well as the rest of the BC Wrestle Pod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay Bi-Conic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will catch you tomorrow night for TNA. But until then, adios.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's going to happen next time? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.